This is a disgrace. And if it isn't a disgrace, which one of you media guys will say, hold on, Chris, I don't think it's a disgrace. Fight me. It's a disgrace. Yes, I said it, and you all need to say it. And you all need to actually make the boxing board of control do it. My son having to boil himself down to 160. 3 years ago, they were talking about him coming down to 157. What is that? This is daylight murder. And when I say murder, you say, well, oh, Chris, that's a bit too strong. Yet, my brother died at the hands of the promoters. 20 losses in 27 fights. Being brought in as fodder. Do you understand? So I don't have any, I'm speaking.
Chris Eubank Sr. has made his feelings crystal clear about the proposed fight between his son, Chris Eubank Jr., and Conor Benn. He's furious and calling it a disgrace to the sport of boxing. His main concern centers on the dangerous weight cut Eubank Jr. is being forced to undergo, dropping from 168 pounds to a risky 160 pounds. To Eubank Sr., this isn't just poor decision-making, it borders on madness. He sees it not as a fight, but as a dangerous stunt that puts both athletes at serious risk. Eubank Sr. isn't speaking from emotion alone. He's drawing from deeply personal and painful experience. His brother tragically lost his life due to the brutal realities of boxing, exploited by promoters and thrown into...
The smaller guy in Conor Benn he has had his career destroyed for one guy. Because once you go up to 160, going down to fight, then at 147, it doesn't work. These rules are in place to provide a rail for him for his career. My son coming down from 168 to 160 puts his life in danger because I know what it is. I know what it is to lose that type of weight. The super middle
fights he shouldn't have been in. That trauma lingers, and now he fears history could repeat itself with his son. To him, the disregard for a fighter's safety in favor of generating hype and selling pay-per-views is nothing new, and it's absolutely unacceptable. What makes it worse in his eyes is the one-sided nature of the weight demands. Eubank Jr. is being forced to shed pounds dangerously fast, while Conor Benn is being pushed to climb to an unnatural 160 pounds. Eubank Sr. believes this drastic shift makes no sense. It's not just a mismatch in weight, it's a setup that could derail both fighters' careers. The toll, he says, is already apparent in his son, who is straining to make the weight in time. This isn't a fight, Eubank Sr. says, it's a dangerous game, and he warns that the consequences could be long-lasting, both physically and mentally. His message is...
No, I'm not. No, I can't be inconsistent. I can't be dishonest and a hypocrite. I've said from the outset that I didn't like the fight. I felt it was a fight built upon other people's legacies. I understand what it's turned into. I understand the furore and the interest, and I understand the point that Eddie Hearn's making. If you ask Frank Warren what he thinks of it, he doesn't think much of it. People might say that's because he's not involved in it. But I would like to see Conor Benn fighting at 147 and winning a world title in that weight class, and I'd like Eubank, who I think is a brilliant showman and a great raconteur, fighting for a world title at 160 or 168. Not this situation, but each to their own. I don't know. Where are you on it?
Well, where are you on it?
Well, it's going to be a massive event.
Firm, the fight should never happen. Echoing these sentiments, sports pundit Simon Jordan also slammed the matchup, calling it a blatant cash grab. For Jordan, this isn't about competition or championship merit. It's a show built purely on nostalgia and the legacy of two famous last names. In his view, the fight has no sporting integrity. He believes Conor Benn should be fighting for titles at 147 pounds, not stepping up to face a naturally bigger man in a catchweight bout created to sell tickets, not test skill. Even veteran promoter Frank Warren has criticized the event, calling out the manipulation behind the scenes. To him, it's clear this is more business than boxing. The fight might fill arenas, but it's selling out the very spirit of the sport. On the other side, promoter Eddie Hearn stands firmly.
I have never in my entire life witnessed anyone work so hard as Conor Benn in training camp. And if Conor Benn loses, and I don't believe he will, You can look yourself in the mirror and say, I've done absolutely everything I can to win this fight. And he will win this fight. And he will knock Chris Eubank out inside 4 rounds. That is my prediction.
Behind Conor Benn, praising his relentless work ethic and drive to succeed. For Hearn, Benn's determination is what matters most, but even that may not be enough to justify the risks involved. In the end, the real question is, how much are we willing to compromise for hype? Conor Benn is supremely confident heading into the rematch with Chris Eubank Jr., so much so that he's betting everything on a knockout. According to promoter Eddie Hearn, Benn isn't just hoping for a win, he's predicting a brutal stoppage within the first 4 rounds. Hearn makes it clear, he doesn't see Eubank Jr. as a serious threat. In his eyes, Benn is an unstoppable force.
I think it's a mismatch on paper, of course it is. It's a fella that won a British title at welterweight, who hasn't boxed for a long time, against a faded world-class middleweight, so I haven't really got any interest, to be honest.
Egg slap not get you excited for it?
Not really, no. I'm not really an excitable guy.
And this fight is going to end quickly. Even if Benn loses, Hearn says he'll know he gave everything, but he doesn't expect that to happen. However, not everyone is buying into the hype. Dave Allen has blasted the rematch, calling it an embarrassment to the sport. He describes the fight as a shallow spectacle, nothing more than a desperate attempt to profit off nostalgia, lacking any real substance or competition. To Allen, the matchup is a circus act, pitting a faded middleweight against a welterweight who hasn't proven himself at the top level. Allen doesn't hold back, calling the so-called rivalry a joke. He believes both fighters are coasting on their fathers' names while fans are being sold a watered-down version of a meaningful fight. In his words, this isn't real boxing. It's a disrespectful pantomime with no sporting merit, tarnishing the sport for the sake of a quick paycheck.
Just the walk, let alone the fight part. It takes a lot of mental strength. It takes a lot of guts, a lot of heart. You know, mental strength, it's a huge thing in boxing.
It's a big thing in life, even outside of boxing, right? In business and in all, I think, great endeavors. Do you think it's something that you can, from what you've seen in the gym, something you can teach or train?
I think you can.
This is the harsh reality many believe surrounds the upcoming fight. The burning question remains, how long will fans keep buying into this farce? Frank Warren didn't mince words when asked about Chris Eubank Jr. He outright called him a prick, delivering a brutal takedown of Eubank's character. Warren made it clear his disdain wasn't just about boxing, it was personal. He expressed frustration with the way Eubank carries himself, especially in the public eye, criticizing his arrogant and self-absorbed demeanor. What could have been a professional critique turned into a full-blown clash of egos, with Warren's sharp remarks only intensifying the already heated atmosphere surrounding the bout. Eubank Jr.'s cocky, brash persona has long made him a polarizing figure in the sport, but now, with the war of words escalating, the rivalry
and I understand and get it. Now, I'm friends with Conor, I've known him a long time, just before he got into professional boxing. He's a lovely young man, he's a lovely kid. I'm not the greatest fan of Chris Eubank Jr., but I'll tell you what, I admire the control the boy has over things. I must admit, I mean, the boy's in such control when it comes to press conferences. He's playing it like he's the orchestra, and he's the guy at the front. He's playing them all.
Between Eubank and Conor Benn has moved beyond boxing. It's no longer just about records or rankings. It's about pride, legacy, and not letting the other man have the final word. Tony Bellew has thrown his full support behind Conor Benn, calling him a grounded, genuine warrior who's stayed true from day one. In contrast, Bellew doesn't hide his contempt for Eubank Jr. The moment Eubank's name is mentioned, Bellew's tone shifts, criticizing the fighter for manipulating the media and pretending to be in control. But Bellew isn't fooled. What Eubank calls confidence, Bellew sees as pure arrogance, a flashy persona masking insecurity. In this bitter feud, the gloves are off, and not just in the ring. Praise for Conor Benn from Tony Bellew feels deeply personal.
Conor's his dad's son, and his dad's exactly the same. And the Eubanks and the Benns, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and so there'll always be that family rivalry going on. And Chris's aloof personality, riles Conor, like his dad did, with their dads did. So he knows exactly what he's got to do.
Personal, like he's standing beside a brother in battle. To Bellew, Benn is the embodiment of grit and loyalty, a fighter who's stayed true to himself. The contrast between Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. couldn't be more stark. While Eubank may dominate the press with flashy sound bites and bravado, Bellew sees Benn as the one who fights with integrity and heart. The lines between them aren't just drawn, they're scorched into the canvas. Bellew's loyalty to Benn is absolute, but not everyone shares Bellew's admiration. Johnny Nelson, for example, has strong words for Benn. He criticizes the fighter's erratic behavior and controversial statements, arguing that they've cast a long shadow over his in-ring potential. According to Nelson, Benn has crossed dangerous lines with his reckless conduct, creating unnecessary drama that continues to follow him.
I think Chris is leaps and bounds ahead of Conor. His experience, the guys he's been in with, take away the weight, because Chris is obviously going to be disadvantaged in there with the weight as well. But just ability, boxing skill set is on a completely different level.
On the other hand, Nelson holds Chris Eubank Jr. in high regard, praising his unwavering focus and dedication to the sport. In his eyes, Eubank Jr. has managed to keep distractions at bay while methodically building his legacy. While Benn's off-ring antics dominate headlines, Eubank stays locked in on the goal, proving himself in the ring. The big question is, can Benn finally silence the noise and center his energy where it matters most? Or will the chaos continue to derail his future when the spotlight is brightest? Meanwhile, Harlem Eubank has stepped in to defend his cousin with a fiery takedown of the hype surrounding Conor Benn. For Harlem, the narrative is simple. Chris Eubank Jr. isn't just better, he's on a completely different level. While fans and critics focus on weight cuts and rehydration clauses, Harlem sees beyond the noise. To him, this fight is about more than size or strength. It's about experience, intelligence, and mental fortitude. Chris has gone toe-to-toe with world-class fighters. Benn's resume, Harlem argues, is built on knockout highlights against lower-tier opponents. That power won't matter, he says, when Chris starts breaking Benn down round by round with strategy and skill. When Benn is dragged into deep waters, Harlem believes Chris won't just outbox him, he'll drown him. What's your take on this rivalry? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more boxing updates.